Hey everyone, on today's episode of Rage Baiting My Viewers, we are going to be talking about everyone's favorite Breaking Bad character, Gale. More specifically, we're going to be talking about why you should not feel that bad about Gale's death. As always, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and we'll get right into today's video. Gale was an interesting character. He was quirky, he made great coffee, and he was a master chemist. That being said, it's a little strange as to how Gale ended up where he did. While we don't know too much about the motives of Gale joining the drug trade, we do have some clues to decipher. We do know that Gale and Gus had a relationship well before Walt ever came into the picture. Gus paid for Gale's college education, which we can observe to be a reason that Gale would feel obligated to help Gus. While we might not know for sure, I think the most logical explanation for the sponsorship would be that Gus was doing this to multiple bright chemistry students as a way to either scout them, or more accurately, groom them. I find it highly unlikely that Gale was the only person that Gus groomed into the drug trade. However, there are key indicators on why Gus would choose Gale to be his cook. The most obvious example of why Gus would choose Gale to be his cook would be Gale's self-proclaimed libertarian mindset. Gale himself said,
"Consenting adults want what they want, and if I'm not supplying it, they will get it somewhere else. At least with me, they're getting exactly what they pay for. No added toxins or adulterants."
Throughout the years of their friendship, Gus could have noticed this and extracted these opinions. With all of that being said, Gale played a big role in many people's addictions. While he does say consenting adults have the right to choose what they do, he is bright enough to understand that drug addiction impacts more than just the user themselves. As I highlighted in my last video about Jesse Pinkman's morality, children also get caught up in the world of drugs, be it as children of users, dealers, or even as accidental casualties of drug-related violence. Gale was smart enough to know all of these things and still chose to cook methamphetamine. While this, within the context of Breaking Bad, doesn't pull at the heartstrings enough to make you hate him, this is only a layer within my reasoning. The other, more interesting part of why you should not feel bad for Gale is that he was okay with and complicit with Gus killing Walt. Gale was completely aware that Gus was going to kill Walt. He did nothing to stop this from happening. The fact is that Walt and Jesse did the same thing that Gale did to them. They chose themselves over him. We know this because of Gale's interactions with Gus. One scene in particular stands out. The scene in question is in Season 3 episode, Full Measure, the episode in which Gale is killed. There is a scene in this episode where Gus visits Gale, and after telling Gale that Walt is sick and dying, Gus asks the question, when will Gale be able to complete his cook alone? At first, Gale seemingly contemplates the legitimacy of Walt's illness killing him so fast. However, it is confirmed to him that something far more nefarious is at play after Gus completely changes his tone and doesn't accept anything longer than one more cook. Directly after this scene, we cut to Walt and Gale on their next cook. To give Gale some credit, it does seem that he does want to tell Walt what he knows. However, Victor interferes and he stays silent. On the other hand, Victor could have interfered to assure that Walt gave a reasonable answer. All of this being said, Gale accepts that he is choosing himself over Walt and Jesse, the same way that Walt and Jesse ultimately do as well. Whether or not you liked Gale, he is perceived far differently than Walt when they are put in the same situation. Both Walt and Gale selfishly acted at the expense of other people, meaning that neither one of them has a high moral ground to stand on against each other. The best argument that you can make is that Gus is the ultimate evil leading to Gale's death. Had Gus not recruited the naive and unprepared Gale into the world of drugs, he would most likely still be alive. Again, that being said, Gale knew the implications of his work and chose to work within the drug world anyway, so his death was in part his own fault as well. Hopefully my rage bait was successful and you enjoyed today's video. If you did, drop me a like to show me your support, and if you now hate me because of this video, please let me know why in the comments. Either way, I hope you subscribe to the channel and join me for the next video. And if there's anything in particular you would like to see me cover, let me know in the comments as well. Peace out.